Welcome to Multiple Choice Question 16 of the 2009 Mathematical Methods Exam 2. In this video, we will be looking at the solution for this question. A reminder that this video is in no way endorsed by VCAA. And now before we move on, I'd just like to point out that using a CAS calculator is an efficient way to help answer this question. For question 16, we're asked the inverse of the function with a domain of reals positive with a rule of f of x equals e to the power of 2x plus 3 is given by one of the following. So when we're asked to find the inverse function, when we're looking for the rule, we want to start by swapping x and y to find the inverse. So for this question, f of x represents y, so this will become x equals e to the power of 2y plus 3. And then the second thing we want to do is we want to solve for y. And that's something that we can use a calculator to do. On the CAS calculator, go into the main menu. Next, we want to type in our new rule with x and y swapped. So we have x is equal to, and then bringing up the keyboard, we can do e to the power of, and it will be 2y plus 3. And that all needs to be in the power. And then we want to highlight that and go interactive, equation inequality solve, and we want to solve for the variable y. So from the calculator, we got this output. We got y is equal to ln of x divided by 2. Then we had subtract 3 on 2. And now that doesn't match up perfectly with any of the rules that we're given, but we can rearrange it. So this is the same as f inverse if I now use the correct notation. And 1/2 times ln of x is the same as 1/2 times log e of x. And the multiplied by 1/2 out the front can actually be taken up as a power. And the last thing we need to know is the power of 1/2 is actually the square root. So this is actually equal to log e of the square root of x. And then the minus 3 on 2 just stays as negative 3 on 2 at the end. And we can see that option C is the only one with that rule, so it must be correct. And I'll actually have a look on the next slide at why the domain of the inverse function is e to the power of 3 to infinity. And as we go on to the next slide, just keep in mind that the domain of the original exponential function was restricted to be r plus, or all positive real numbers. So from the examiner's report, we can see that 74% of students got this question correct, so it was handled reasonably well on the exam. And like I said just before, we're just going to unpack why the domain of the inverse graph was e to the power of 3 to infinity. So I've sketched using a calculator the original function f of x over its restricted domain. So remembering that the domain was x is an element of the positive real numbers. So we have an open dot at 0, and then putting 0 into the rule gives e cubed as the y value, and this graph keeps going off to infinity. So if I just summarize what the range of f is down here, we can see the range of f is going to be round bracket, because it's an open dot, e cubed to infinity. And now if I bring up a sketch of the inverse function that a computer's generated for us, we can see that x and y being swapped, and that reflection over the line y equals x, results in the starting point being an open dot with e cubed comma 0. So that means that the domain of f inverse was equal to the range of f, which is e cubed to infinity. So that's why on the previous slide, the option C had the domain of the inverse function being e cubed to infinity along with the rule that we found.